It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to jump on the gigantic Sharp Interactive board. I want to go through Xerox's first quarter for their FY 2024, and I want to talk about their reinvention. I want to share some thoughts on where I see Xerox going into the future. I could be right, I could be wrong, but one thing I learned a long time ago, possibilities become probabilities, and probabilities become reality quicker than ever. Xerox put out a press release last week, and they were talking about how they will no longer manufacture the iGen and the Navara press. When I read that press release, I got really excited. Since 2017, I've been telling the industry friends of mine that Xerox, not an OEM, they're the world's largest dealer. And I would always have to say something like, well, they only make a couple of machines, but one day they'll get out of that as well. I'm so glad that Xerox will no longer manufacture the iGen or the Navara press. Xerox is the largest dealer. They don't need to make products. They need to deliver exceptional experiences into the marketplace. They had an earnings call with a financial analyst. In that earnings call, the CEO mentioned the digital and physical world. When the CEO mentioned the digital and physical world, I got really excited. It's been a passion of mine for a long time. In that call, they also talked about geographies. They talked about the reality of geographies between direct and dealer. It wasn't too long ago I shared with you all that I believe Xerox will reevaluate geographies in a big way. I even predicted they would eliminate a lot of their direct business in the European marketplace. I still believe they will do that. Right now they're in Latin America. We'll see where they go. But they have to adjust geographies to the reality of today's deliverable and the deliverable of the reinvention. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a tough time that we're in our industry. We're going to see some painful things happen. So as I start today's episode out, I want to show you this picture. This is a picture of an arm that was once fractured, but it wasn't set properly, and it healed really bad. And that person that has that arm that healed really bad is probably in a lot of pain. Probably can't even use the damn arm. I believe our industry was fractured during COVID. Fractured really bad. Unfortunately, I believe that fracture wasn't set properly. And now, our industry has to do what that doctor's going to have to do to fix that arm. You know what that doctor's going to have to do? Well, that doctor's going to have to break the arm. Going to have to break the arm. Set it properly so it heals. When Xerox announced its reinvention, it's like breaking an arm. It's like breaking bones. It's going to be really painful, especially to status quo. But ladies and gentlemen, we can't worry about status quo. We can't worry about those individuals in our industry that say things like, well, hopefully nothing drastic happens till I retire. I want to say this real clear, as loud as I can. All of you that say that, get the hell out of this industry right now and make way for those that believe in progress, that those that want to help the industry maintain a continuous relevance. If you're one of those folks that's running around, going to meetings, talking about you hope nothing really drastic happens till you retire, something drastic's happened. It's time to retire. The industry is going to reinvent itself with or without the permission of the industry's actors. We'll see some of these status quo folks, they'll start hanging around in their clubs where they can slap each other on the back, tell each other all the things that each other want to hear, but nothing to help them improve. They won't share anything painful with any of these people because they want to keep people comfortable. And I'll tell you this right now, the industry that I call home, the print industry, there's nothing comfortable about it. It's going through a massive disruption. It's like a broken arm. We have to do the right rehab. We have to do the right exercise. We have to pay attention to how this thing heals so that it can maintain a continuous relevance. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start out with this. Between the digital and physical worlds, there's an intersection. You know, when I heard Stephen mention the digital and physical worlds, I started thinking about an article I wrote in February of 2021. The title of that article was Xerox Between the Digital and Physical Worlds. I published it on LinkedIn. And I was talking about Care AR, their augmented reality product, and how that augmented reality product really does allow people to navigate the intersection between the digital and physical world. It was exciting to me. In that article, I say this: customer experience is determined in the intersection where products meets customers. And that intersection is increasingly becoming digital. Today, I believe with all of my heart that customer experience is determined in the intersection between the digital and physical world, regardless of your industry. Customer experience is determined in the intersection between the digital and physical world, regardless of your industry. And I'm excited that Xerox understands this. There's a quote out there by Theodore Levitt. People don't go to a hardware store to buy a 1/4-inch drill. What they want to buy is a 1/4-inch hole in the wall. Let me say it this way. People don't buy products, people buy outcomes. The product is just the means to achieve the outcome. I believe it's about the experience one gets from the means which drives a product's success. I believe it's about the experience one gets from the means which drives the product's success. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe that experience is found in the intersection between the digital and physical world. And the best way to describe that is Uber. This is a screenshot from my iPhone when I was in St. Louis getting an Uber. Look, Uber, like a taxi, gets me from point A to point B. The means to get from point A to point B through the taxi is a really crappy experience. Calling up a cab company, getting in the cab, getting to destination B, giving the driver your charge card, watch him fumble around with the software he doesn't know how to use or the machine he doesn't know how to use to pay. It's a terrible experience. Uber changed it. And they made that experience in the intersection between the digital and physical world. And they built a multi-billion-dollar rideshare industry. Customer experience is determined in the intersection between the digital and physical world. And our industry and all industries have to understand that. So we saw the big press release. Xerox will no longer manufacture. I got so excited about this. I'm hoping now that our industry's media and analysts can see Xerox for who they are, the largest dealer in the world. We got to stop calling Xerox an OEM. They're not an OEM. They're a large dealer. And they're going to deliver products and services into the marketplace. You know, Xerox came out with some software called FreeFlow. And when they came out with this software called FreeFlow, this wasn't about an enhancement to a production print machine. This was about an enhancement to a customer experience, regardless of the machine. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about navigating a customer between the digital and physical world. I believe that FreeFlow is about an experience for the end user between the digital and physical world. We'll see where Xerox goes with this. We'll see how many users, using what products they use this software. But again, when Xerox came out with FreeFlow, it wasn't to enhance a piece of equipment. It was to enhance an experience for an end user. Let's talk about Xerox's numbers. First quarter, ladies and gentlemen, the revenue was down 12.4%. They ended up with $1.5 billion for the quarter, down 12%. Operating profit, first quarter of 2024 was 2.2%. First quarter of 2023 was 6.9%. The arm was broken. There's a lot of things. A lot of doctor bills got to get paid. We're going through a reinvention. I'm not letting them off the hook for a 2.2% operating profit, but the reality of it is, I want Rico and Konica to think about this really hard. Xerox coming in that first quarter with a 2.2% operating profit, that's a crisis at Xerox, and they're paying attention to it. That's where Rico lives. They live at 2.5%, 3%. If they're lucky, 4% operating profit. They live there for years. That's not where Xerox wants to live. And I think that's important for everybody to understand. If you look at the equipment sales for the first quarter, they were $290 million. And the post sales was $1,212 million. The equipment was down 25.8%. The post sales was down 8.5%. Ladies and gentlemen, equipment sales are going to go down. Even if we sell more print hardware, the revenue is going to be less. That's why it's so important that Xerox and all the other players in the space start defining these other services. Xerox, I kind of scolded you about this before. I'm going to scold you again. We've got to clearly define this post-sale. We can't be lumping all this crap together. We can't. The industry has to understand how the rehab's going. The investors have to understand how the rehab's going. How's that arm doing underneath that cast now that we reset that the proper way? If you look over here, they do their full year guidance. And folks, we're going to dig really deep into these numbers when Xerox gets to their first half, because today's episode would be too long. But I'll tell you this, Xerox is forecasting that they want to have a 7.5% operating profit. I don't think they're going to get there. I think if they got to 6%, that would be a home run. The arm's broken. They're going through a reinvention. There's a lot of cost associated with that. And Xerox, I will give them this credit. They're not trying to hide this. They're talking about it in realistic terms. But I really believe that 6% is where they're going to end up in operating profit, and I think they're going to have about an 8% decline year on year. But I will tell you this, when you look at Xerox's numbers, what I don't see them doing is chasing revenue at all costs, regardless of profitability. When I look at some of the other actors in our industry, chasing revenue, but their operating profit goes in the toilet all the time, it's not a good scenario. As Orlando Bravo once said just a few short years ago, the time for chasing revenue must end, and we have to focus on profitability. Xerox, you do a really good job telling us the percentage of growth with the hardware regarding print. Entry, mid-range, high-end, other. You show us all this, and by the way, they're all not growing, which we know they're not going to grow. But here's the problem, Xerox. Tell us what's happening to offset what's not happening. Xerox, when you talk about the digital and physical world, tell us about the toll booth where the customers enter that intersection between the digital and physical world. And that toll booth is your toll booth. What are they paying? What's the fee to go through your toll booth to navigate customers between the digital and physical world? This is so important because we have to understand where the money's going to come from as our equipment continues to drop. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not just print equipment that we're seeing declines in. We're seeing declines in compute equipment as well. There's more and more happening in the cloud. There's more and more happening in the intersection between the digital and physical world. Xerox, you understand the digital and physical world. Now you got to let us understand how you're going to monetize that intersection. It's critical. I put this together and it's an imagine chart. But until our industry can think this way, we're going to continue to fool ourselves and we're not going to manage with the discipline we need. And this chart, you can see this orange line is print, okay? And remember, this is an imagine chart. This isn't anything to do with Xerox. This is my thinking out loud. So if you look at this orange line of print, obviously, it's pretty much going down. It's not going to grow. We're never going to see it take off. It's not going to happen. The industry's matured. It's declining. The needs of the equipment around print, people don't need it near as much as they used to. You've heard all the stories, right? This gray line represents document processing and software and services that kind of relate to print. We know what they are. I don't need to list them all, but we got stuff out there that enhances the equipment, if you will. We came up with software solutions to make people buy our machines, even though people don't need the machines near like they used to. And then this blue line, this is the future. This is digital transformation, generative AI, RPA, augmented reality. That blue line represents the intersection between the digital and physical world. And until our industry is ready to measure the revenue and profit from that, we're never going to create the disciplines needed to get that to grow, to get that to be profitable. We need to pay attention with extreme focus on all that we do outside of print. And that focus has to start now. I looked at Xerox's services, and they listed out here. They got all kinds of stuff they do. But I will tell Xerox this: you can't drink from a fire hose. And the marketplace, the investment community, has to be able to understand where the money's coming from these and how that money is going to be profitable. It's so important. When I think about what Konica did with All Covered here in the United States, learn from that. You know, Konica could run around and tell everybody how All Covered's knocked it out of the park. But when you look at that, when you look at the 24 assets that they rolled up underneath All Covered, when you realize they don't ever talk about any of the successes with math and details, it's all adjectives, that's not going to change an industry, and that type of philosophy will not change Xerox. We can't have reps drinking from a fire hose. Reps need to know what they're going to sell, how they're going to sell it, how they're going to make money. The investors need to know where the revenue is coming from, and more importantly, how is the profit going to come from that revenue. I looked at the geographies. I went to the 10K for Xerox's FY 2023. In the United States, it produced 44% of the revenues for Xerox's total. In 2023, Xerox's total revenue was $6,886 million. In the United States, it was $3,826 million. 44%. I looked at the channel sales. Channel sales represent 40% of Xerox's total revenue. Xerox has revenue coming in from their leasing company. They're reevaluating the leasing portfolio. And ladies and gentlemen, they're going through some structural changes. But as Xerox goes through these structural changes, they've got to break out the revenue buckets much better. Please, Xerox, do this. Do this for yourselves. Do this for your leadership and your management. Do this for the rank and file. Do this for the investors. My concerning question regarding moving direct to dealer. As Xerox goes through the world and they move from direct to dealer, can Xerox provide value-added benefits outside of hardware which excites dealers? It's a hard question. And Xerox, I am sure that you're aware of that question, and I'm sure that you're putting things in place to make sure those relationships with dealers, regardless of geography, if you want to have a relationship with dealers, how are you going to bring added value to these other services that live between the digital and physical world, and how are those dealers going to monetize that, and more importantly, receive profit from that? What's the toll to travel through the Xerox intersection? What's the toll between the digital and physical world? I want to talk about these logos I have here as I think about Xerox's future. A while back, I did an episode regarding TD SYNNEX, and I asked the question, what if TD SYNNEX bought Xerox? What if ServiceNow bought Xerox? Ladies and gentlemen, ServiceNow made an investment in CareAR, the augmented reality platform. ServiceNow could do a lot of things with Xerox because Xerox is the largest dealer. Xerox provides services and solutions to end users. Currently, most of those services and solutions are around print. But one day they could be around something else. One day they will be around what lives in the intersection between the digital and physical world. What could Xerox do with Verizon Business? What could Xerox do with Fujifilm now that Fujifilm and Konica formed a JV around manufacturing? Folks, I'm not the only one that believes that Fujifilm will probably completely absorb all of Konica. Konica's been non-financial financially performing for quite a few years, and at the end of the day, it wouldn't surprise me to see Fuji completely absorb Konica. If they did that, could there be some opportunities for Xerox to grab all that Konica distribution from Fuji, as Fuji focuses on being the OEM and Xerox focuses on being the largest dealer in the world? A lot of things are going to happen over the next few years. There's no doubt about it. I want to end with this slide, and I'll get more into this in future episodes, but Xerox is going through a change of the board. There's some interesting folks joining this board. But when I looked at the companies these folks are from, Guidewire, a cloud services for insurance companies. What is Guidewire doing? Well, they're helping people navigate between the digital and physical world. When I think of MasterCard, what are they doing? We're seeing more and more finances going through that intersection between the digital and physical world. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of changes that are going to take place. Those changes are going to take place at Xerox. Those changes are going to take place in your dealership, whether you're a small dealer, a medium dealer, or a large dealer. And there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be painful. Don't run to the club and sing Kumbaya, slap each other on the back, tell everybody it's going to be okay. Don't go where people tell you what you want to hear so you feel better. Look for people that want to make you better. Because we all know there is no progress without pain. And everybody watching me, especially those new board members, status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.